How do you both ult track and understand the win condition of your comp? I can seem to do one at a time, but not both. Is this something unique to me? So it sounds like it could be a little bit unique to you. It sounds like you're struggling with it more so than you should. So with ult tracking, you're just simply spitting out the enemy ultimates that they have. Understanding the win condition of your comp is something that should not take a long time to analyze. It comes with experience. So like today, we went over Brawl versus Spam and how Spam is, or even Ball Zarya versus Ryan Zarya. Like you can't meet it toe to toe, right? Keep in mind that when we're talking about understanding the win condition of your comp, if you are a Lucio player, for example, your job is not to understand every single little detail in every single little matchup. Your job is to understand the general win condition. Okay, we're playing Spam versus Brawl. We want long sightlines and angles. That's it. And then you're trying to, oh, I said Lucio. You're playing Brawl versus Spam. Sorry. You're looking for short sightlines and to clear out their space. So then all you need to do as Lucio is know what is your role in that. And my role is to speed my team to clear out that space and to deny any enemy snipers that get close enough, or any enemy offense that get close enough that I can contest. So you don't need to understand the big win, like win condition of the comp. Make it simple, like simplify. Always simplify and prioritize. So if you're ult tracking and struggling with doing this, it could be because you're trying to ult track to like 10%, or maybe you're struggling ult tracking all 6 ults when you don't need to worry about a couple ults like tracking pulse or whatever. Like for right now, maybe you're diamond or masters or low GM and you're like, I just need to prioritize the big ultimates, the grav dragons, the the trances, right? The nano blades. Focus on that, focus on the big ones, and then focus also on the basic big win conditions, not the individual tiny little details, and specifically the ones that have to do with your job. You don't worry about your teammates. You let your teammates handle their own. Even in scrims, you worry about your responsibility. For you to get better, I would work on simultaneously practicing, but also simplify. You should be, you're probably doing too much or overcomplicating the process. So you need to streamline and simplify the process, make it simpler and easier to do. So you need to get better, but you also need to make the weight lighter. You need to get stronger, but you need to remove plates off of the barbell. Windfall, I don't. I never take, like, there was a brief period of time when Uprising Academy was getting trashed on. Like, this team is hard stuck open division, and they had no idea what was going on behind the scenes, or the level of difficulty, or the situation that, I don't want to shift blame, but that I was put in. I did the best I could. I did not do as good of a job as I would have done now. I would have done much better. I've learned so much. A better coach would have done a better job, for sure. And I learned a lot from that. But a lot of people were putting us through some unfair crap. And I started saving screenshots from Discords and Twitters. And you know what that did? The stuff that people were saying about us, it depressed me. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna inspire me. But it depressed me. It made me sad. It hurt my feelings. And it made me motivated to win so I could show those people wrong, when I should have just been motivated to win just for winning's sake. I should not be motivated to win so I could smear something in your face. That's not motivation. That's desperation. And you know what? We ended up getting a lot better. We actually made contenders, and we almost made contenders playoffs. And all the crap that people were saying about us turned out to be false at the end. But I had no motivation to post it anymore. I had no motivation. All it shows is a weakness that you got to me. You know? So I don't take inspiration from other people trash talking. It's too shallow for me. Screw it. You're irrelevant to my run. That's my idea. Some people are good at the games without having structure or focus or anything specific to improve on. How does this work for them but not for somebody else? Could it be more efficient for some people? I mean, some people might just have a tendency or a knack for knowing exactly how to improve without even trying. Like, we talk about player-led teams and how they are just focusing on fun and having a good time and being relaxed and playing with confidence. And what that does is that allows them to play in ways like confidence will let you play with more synergy a lot of the times. Playing relaxed oftentimes helps you to mechanically play more aggressive, right? So a lot of times indirect results of doing things that seem weird at first can actually be sound concepts. Like playing with synergy, playing with aggression is good. And so player-led teams will often play better than you think they should because they have these very same things down. So for players that are getting good at games without having an obvious structure or an obvious focus, you have to actually look at, like, what are they doing? Well, they're probably playing a lot of the game. maybe they're playing within a hero, like they love a specific, like I've seen a lot of times, oh yeah, man, I just go out there, I one trick Widow, I just don't even care. I'm like, wait, he's one tricking a hero. That right there is a really good way to improve. So like they accidentally fall into ways of improvement. There's also people out there that find more satisfaction about focusing and improvement. So they might not really have a structure, and they might not even have something specific to improve on, but they're still working on being focused, and they're still working on playing hard. Like there's a lot of people who are just competitive, right? And they just want to get better, and they want to win, and they want to get the higher rank. And so they might not have a VOD review, and they might not even have a structure, but they're focusing. And that in of itself is how you improve. So it's not textbook. It's not Coach Spilo tells you what to work on. You have your sticky notes, but it's still good to have it. And then obviously, like there's obviously tendencies for people to be able to focus longer. You know, like maybe they grew up and they spent a lot of time playing video games as a kid, so they're used to playing and sitting still and focusing for long periods of time. Me, I go stir crazy if I sit too long. Like even this, like I have to get up and like, that's why I'm sometimes really animated during certain reviews, because I'm like losing my mind. I can't sit still for this long. So it's just like what they've been kind of training as since they were kids. I think it's really narrow, improved intuition. Yeah, intuition is a really great way of doing it. So they kind of do the right thing without really knowing why. That's why a lot of players make really bad coaches, because they don't really know, like they don't really know how to explain how they got there. So they aren't very good teachers. That's a good question. What should I think about before putting Monkey Bubble down? What about Zarya? Are there any significant cooldowns? Significant cooldowns / damage. Some of them you can't wait for, some of them you can. In other words, if I'm playing into an Ana or a Zen, or an Ana, Zen, you know, McCree, diving them, can't really wait to bubble, because I know that as soon as I drop, I'm gonna get slept, discorded, you know, flashbang, right? So I need to drop the bubble quickly. But if I'm diving in here like a Widow, there's no real reason for me to rush the bubble. If I'm on top of her, she's not landing a critical headshot. She's going to SMG and run away. And I can wait and bubble based off of need. Right? Same thing for a lot of different heroes. You kind of have to look at the situation and be like, I need to bubble either preemptively because I know a really, really dangerous cooldown or a huge burst of damage. Like if I'm jumping a Reaper for whatever reason, I need to bubble instantly and not wait. And there's some heroes where you can kind of go, oh, I'm starting to take some damage. Okay, now I bubble. A lot of Winstons, I think, across the board, generally land on bubbling too early. So they will, even in high rank, sometimes they'll just bubble when there's literally no chance that the enemy team is going to be bursting them down and there's no CC. So they could have waited, they start to get pressured, and then they bubble. So that's something that you can just, like, instead of me giving you an answer, there's your answer. Now go look at when you play Monkey and look at how many times that you put down bubble too early when you really didn't need to, and then find out why. Why was it not needed? Was there no CC? Did they have no cooldowns? Were they not looking at you? That's another thing. A lot of Winstons just bubble even though nobody's like actively even looking at them. Zarya bubble is a way more complex one. Bubble for damage, pre-fight. Look for damage to absorb so you can build up charge, and look bubble aggression mid-fight. In other words, you want to bubble your teammates' aggression or to counter enemy aggression mid-fight. Or like even early fight, early fight. But I'm not going to go long into that topic. We talk about it in a lot of Zarya reviews. You need to go back and listen to them. It's too advanced of a concept to go over in this. For every team I've played, I've been main support player, picking at 3200 Vigilante, 3200. I'll play around Ana and Zen, climbing up to Diamond. Should I stick to playing all sports, focus on playing either Flex or Main? Definitely stick to either playing Flex or Main. Like if you compare like Mercy and Lucio to like Zen and Ana, and then like Brig to Bap, like wow, very big difference, very big difference. And you want to avoid interlapping those roles as much as you possibly can. There are some, like a lot of main supports have to learn how to play BAP, but you want to avoid overlapping too many like very aim and corner and cover intensive heroes with heroes like Mercy and Lucio. Diamond Master Bridge, Hermit includes hero bans from that accounts for things you go for the bit. Every team can ban a maximum. Do you have any tips for preparing for that? So we did a ban tournament back with Chicken Contendies way back in the day, Jane's tournament. I forget what it was called. So what you need to be prepared for is you need to look at like each comp, brawl, dive, and spam. And you need to like think about like what variant are we like the most confident at? Because if you're the most confident at brawl, and the enemy team knows that you're most confident at brawl, you need to be prepared for Reinhardt to get banned, right? Or Rein or May or something like that. So you need to find a way. Can we play brawl without Rein? Can we play like Orisa Brawl? Can we play, I mean, that's really the only type. You could play Winston Brawl. Could we play Ball Brawl? If you guys like dive, if you're more comfortable with dive, you need to be prepared for, you know, Diva or Ana or Tracer getting banned, or Winston. For spam, it might be, you know, I don't know, Zen or Bat being banned. And so you need to simultaneously get an idea of what you guys might want to, like, what's your best composition, and then find ways of playing that composition with the traditional spam or dive or brawl heroes being banned. And you can play, you know, Mercy Ana spam. You can play Mercy Brig spam. You can play dive with Ana Lucio. Without a Brig. You can play dive without a Winston, Ball Diva, you know? So you need to find, I would focus less on scouting enemy teams and more on finding out ways that you can adjust your composition and still play the type of comp that you guys are most confident in. For Chicken Contendies, we were very confident in our goats. So we literally we figured out, we played Orisa goats because people would try to ban Ryan against us, and so we just played Orisa goats because Gig, you guys know Gig, so Gig was the main tank for Chicken Contendies at the time, and he was a good Orisa as well as a Reinhardt, and so we'd play Orisa goats, and it was weird, but it worked. I have a PC that can handle 60 FPS, but stutters a lot, so I'm usually playing at 60 to 30 FPS. I've climbed from bronze to high masters in my 3 years of playing the game. Good for you. Mainly main support. I play at high master GM level, but I've been masters for 3 seasons. My FPS is a big role. These skills that can focus. I don't require me to get higher. Maybe some shot calling. Shot calling would be one. Or like slash like ult tracking. So I could just say comms in general. And honestly, just assume that you can continue to get better at your Lucio Brig Mercy. Like, this is a cop-out answer, but like, do some self-review, you know? Find some random 4.2k, you know, Lucio one trick, you know, or like ask them, and like, or a Brig one trick, like go around, message people. You never know, they might ghost you, but you might as well reach out and say, hey, I got a replay code, do you mind taking a look for me and like send me some notes, you know? You got nothing to lose. If you literally can't do more than this, then go for it. You know, you have nothing to lose. So definitely work on your shot calling, ult checking if you can do that. But get a review. Do some self-review. Look at your training schedule. Is there anything I could clean up about it? Can I be more efficient? Isn't Monkey Goats better than Orisa Goats? Not at the time. It was not. No. Not at the time. Because teams weren't practiced with it enough. And Gig wasn't a good monkey. So the maps that we were playing on also weren't very friendly for monkey. But yeah, Monkey Goats got to be very good at the end, or not very good, but it was a decent comp on some situations. Should Widow always take space and off angles? Are there situations where you should angle with your team? Sure, early in fight, you can utilize like Rhine Shield and like peak spawn. And if you can't consistently flank without getting bomb rushed and dying, then it's okay to play more conservative angles, but very rarely do you want to play with your team. So usually if you're getting bomb rushed, you'd play like here instead of here, right? So you're a little bit more likely to get supported. But like I said, a couple of cheap early shots. You see this a lot of Widows, even in GM. They'll take a couple early shots from behind shield, and then they angle off as the fight goes on. The other window doesn't have space or isn't contesting space. I don't have to force a duel, right? No. In fact, you can sometimes avoid the duel entirely and focus on her team. But a lot of the time, the thing that's preventing you as Widow from shooting the enemy squishies on the backline is that Widow, right? And which is a lot of time why the duel is so important, because it's when you win the duel, that allows you to actually focus other targets. If you don't win the duel, there's always the fear in the back of your mind that she might look at me and I might just die. But if you can find a sight line where you can shoot backline and you know the Widow can't see you, then you're good. I'm currently a far main in mid gold. I'm trying to switch to Hanzo and Tor because they're more effective in the long run. Okay. I guess I just play what you want to have fun. Like Pharah is fine. You can get. I mean, Yazin plays Pharah, 4.6, but sure, more effective in the long run. Having trouble figuring out what's a good sensitivity for Hanzo. When I have a high sense, I can barely snipe, but my close range is good. When I have a low sense, it's hard to track new targets. Close by 1v on snipers easily. What should I do? So you need to find a middle ground and you need to stick with it. So anything under 8k DPI or EDPI is problematic. So I'd work on picking a sense and sticking with it. What's going to happen, and I had an issue with one of the players that I coached in the past, is that he would constantly change sensitivity. He'd play well in a sense, and then he'd have one bad day and he'd be like, this doesn't feel right. And he'd switch sense and rinse and repeat. and he never really like grinded out his sensitivity, so he never really got to as good if he wanted to. Until I literally sat him down one day, I was like, you're not allowed to change your sensitivity. It's not happening. And guess what happened? The next day, terrible day, awful day. The day after that, also awful. But then all of a sudden he started clicking, and then the inconsistency dropped off a little bit. And you just have to go with it, and you have to stick with it. So we really need to work, especially in low gold, on building good habits and building a good, not muscle memory, but like mental imagery around the same sensitivity. It will make your training a little bit easier, but it's going to take some guts to stick with it, because it is a habit to always blame the sensitivity. So I would pick something relatively low, and for me I would recommend somewhere around 5 to 6k DPI. If you're close range, is fine with 5 to 6k. Like I can do 180s on Zen and Genji with 2.8k EDPI, which is extremely low, but it's still doable. Okay. You can send in a VOD. I mean, sure, but that's not really going to answer your sensitivity question. Like your sensitivity question, I don't need to see a VOD to tell you what the issue, like what you need to do. Yeah, see, this is absurd. This is like 36,000 EDPI. This is unbelievably high. The highest sensitivity that I know of from any pro player is around 20,000 or 18,000. And that guy was like an anomaly. Like people thought he was a freak. Most pros run 4,000 or 5,000. Some tanks run like 10 to 12. But this is literally 10 times almost what it should be. The only exception is that if you're running a very small mouse pad and you can't get a bigger one. But if you're running a mouse pad, even if you're running a mouse pad like yay high, you could get away with like 9k DPI or 10k EDPI. Unless you're running a mouse pad this big, there's no reason for a mouse pad that for a mouse EDPI. As long as you can do a 360 with your mouse pad, that's all you need. I don't care, and the reticle doesn't matter. I would recommend on a simple reticle. Simple reticle. Something like this, or something like this, or something like this. You do not need big and clunky crosshairs, are worthless. Yeah, I was a little slow. Been stable 3.6 for a while, but all of a sudden I dropped almost 500 stars a single day. I did my usual warm routine since I got playing. I was until then I started. Now I'm hard stuck 3.3 with it a single day. How do I fix this? Coaching said I played Widow too passively. I mean, yeah, I mean, it could just be mental. It could be mental. And if you got coaching that said you took 2 passive angles, it might mean that, you know, when you're dropping more, it could be that you just haven't practiced it enough. Obviously, knowledge does not translate to skill. Knowing that you take 2 passive angles doesn't immediately mean that all of your angles afterwards are going to be perfect. Like, it's still going to be a process of trial and error, but hopefully it's on the path that will make you do this, right? Why you would drop 500 SR in a single day, I wouldn't know. You know, a series of bad luck, and then now you're playing, you're underperforming because you're frustrated or lack of focus. I'm not sure. But I always say whenever people talk to me about ranked, consistency of training is so key. You should be training the same amount every single day without fail, again and again and again and again. No days off, no days where you grind 9 hours, no days where you grind 30 minutes, none. Consistency is key. No quick play days, no I'm gonna flex to, you know, Hanzo for this map, none of that baloney. Be consistent, set your goals, self-review, and rep over and over and over and over again. Overwhelm the odds by being the consistent factor that removes probability from the equation. Widow is obviously a lot of Widow. Very hit or miss hero, as in you either do something or do absolutely nothing. This is false. So this is a very common misconception. I see this a lot in like Overwatch University kind of a mindset. It's completely false. Widow does body shots, which do some damage. Widow does scouting. And even if she doesn't have mic, she does pressure. So she can pressure a flank and make that person think twice about putting it. She can also control a sightline that makes the enemy team hesitant to walk into that sightline, so puts them in a bad position. We've reviewed several Widow VODs where a Widow holding a position made the enemy team do funny or bad things, and that gave the friendly team an advantage. So this is a common misconception. People gripe about double sniper, but double sniper on some maps is a great way to help your tanks do whatever the heck they want, because the enemy team is still thinking about snipers. in my opinion, that's something so you could just have to accept to an extent when maining Widow. No, like you should be actively looking to hold positions where you are applying pressure or constantly changing your angle to always kind of be a lurking fear. However, do you have any tips for what you could do in a situation where you aren't getting anything done? Look at your positioning. Look at your positioning. Look at your timing. Just pretend you're playing Tracer. Am I on a good angle? Am I on a good angle at the right time? Mindset or just gameplay wise. But yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Widows can be inconsistent because it's a one-shot or it's not. But it doesn't mean that you're not doing anything. That is completely false. Please clear out your DMs. I will eventually. These are just since I've started streaming, man. I mean, it's been, 6 hours, but still, like, that's not my fault. What's the best way to deal with the monkey Zarya or ball Zarya is Brig? Don't get dove. Maintain kite. Don't get jumped on as if monkey envelops you with his bubble and his bubbled as Zarya as Brig, you are dead. You're gonna try and bash out, you're gonna bash his bubble, you're gonna get stuck and you're gonna die. You must play to either deny his engage by whip-shotting him before he gets bubbled, or bashing away while he's in mid-air and avoiding him entirely. For ball, obviously it's a lot hard to avoid, but still things like, corners, cover, bashing him or whip-shotting him after he engages, like after he slams, making sure you're trying to block the slam with your shield, and then making sure your Inspire is procced. But you can't stop the dive. That's not Brig's job. Your job is to armor pack the DPS and off angles that pressure the dive preemptively, and then survive the dive with Inspire, with Bash, and then after the dive is over to frustrate it with your whip shot and armor packs. Yeah, there's nothing that you can directly do to stop a ball Zarya or a monkey Zarya from coming in necessarily. Should you stagger Baby Diva? Yes. It's something that you're going to be dealing with in officials, so you might as well start practicing it now. Not only as a team that staggers to learn how to stagger best / remember to keep the Baby Diva alive, but also as a team getting staggered. You need to learn how to deal with that. It's annoying, but it is what it is. Who's the best team manager you work with and why they do the sold out? So I've worked with a lot of great managers. Bucky Bear was a really, really great manager over the sheer cold. I know Andrew with Uprising Academy did a great job. But one manager that I haven't talked about publicly, who I think deserves a little bit of attention, is Ronald Dingo, over with Phase 2. And Ronald Dingo was just a genuine, nice, and caring guy. He was a nice, caring, and he was also really took his job seriously. He was professional, right? Now this is an unsigned team, so there were limitations with what he could do, but he tried to do his best. He really cared. It's not just enough to care. You can't be late. I know a lot of people, like I know of a lot of managers who care, but they're just kind of lazy. They don't do anything. Ronald really went out of his way to try and not just care about the players, but also to try to like, okay, what can we be doing better here? Like, can we be fixing this or helping this? And I always respected that a great deal about Ronald. And he was also prompt with messaging back, prompt with communication. Being a manager that's bad at communicating is just, it's like a frog that doesn't know how to jump. Who do you think is the biggest brain YouTube coach? I mean, it's been temporal. It's temporal. I hear pros say Rally is OP. How is it OP when it's only 30 armor per second? It's armor, which you have to understand how armor works. It's a flat damage reduction. I think it's 5 or 6 for each instance of damage. So if a bullet is 8 with armor, it is 8 minus 5 equals 3. So it's a significant damage reduction on individual instances of damage. Obviously for like a Reinhardt hammer swing, which is 85 minus 5. Hey, armor stops Ryan from doing 5 damage on the swing. But for like soldier bullets, tracer bullets, beam weapons, which count as instances of damage, it's very, very strong. But it's team-wide and it's continuous. For something like Sound Barrier, it's a big burst of value, but it goes, it tapers off. For Brig, it's this, and it might taper off like as it gets burned down, but it increases in value, and even as rally is done, it stays on in value until it gets burned off. Obviously expires after a little bit, but not for a little bit. In addition, when you look at something like a trance, which is the other support ultimate that lasts a long time and is, the Zen can't shoot, right? Zen can't shoot. So a lot of his like flexibility, his ability as a hero are gimped. Brig gets faster. Brig is even better at being Brig, because not only can she go aggressive, she moves faster. So it's an ultimate that allows you to push and aggressively fight, where a lot of support ultimates don't do that because they don't last long enough, or they gimp the hero that is using the ultimate. Armor does a -5 for anything above 10. Okay, that's good to know. So for damage that's under 8, under 10, it's halved. So for a damage bullet that does 8, it's 4. For a damage bullet that does 6, it's 3. For a damage bullet that does 4, it's 2. Anything above 10, so anything that is 10, like 12 damage, is the -5. 7, 15, -5. So thank you for fact checking me on that. Appreciate that. I remember that after the fact. So appreciate it. Rally, you just have to survive. Like rally, you just have to milk. Like rally, if you're playing into a rally, you just have to like kind of survive it, kite it, and bleed, like poke them down heavily so that they can't push too aggressively. Okay. How does double sniper comp look like work? Basically, you just long sightlines and splits. So people look at double sniper as like you always have 2 sightlines, but that's just Overwatch in general. Like Overwatch should always be playing flanks. The difference between double snipers and other compositions is you had very long sightlines. Very long sightlines, right? So if you're playing Kree May Brawl, you're still splitting if it's a mirror, right? Your diva might be over here, your Kree's over here, but it's this, right? With double sniper, it's the same thing. It's just like this. And so its strengths were obviously just long sightlines. Weaknesses are anything where it's brawly, where you can't split very far, or where it's very short range. It does well into on maps like it does very well. It does well into a lot of comps on long sightline maps, but it especially struggles against very mobile, fast heroes that can close the distance quickly. Balls, Sombras, Tracers. Those kind of things are because they can all 1v1 individual snipers, which makes them not want to split very much. And they can also close these long sightlines quickly, which is scary. Right, Clone. Yeah. Is this 100% personal preference? Do you think this is something organized teams should strive for in their communication? 303 to 433.
Well, GDH is one of the very few ball players and one of the very few tank players that talk soulless, which offers you big confidence in their plays. You know who else talks like that? Hadi talks like that, Cloudy talks like that. I don't know, for me, like, I prefer tanks that are like in full control, you know, like, I'm going in. Okay, follow me. It's like they know exactly what's happening. No problem, I have 6 people shooting at me. I know what I'm doing, don't worry. Compared to, I'm going in, go. No, what the fuck, dude? Full control. That's just me. I prefer DPSs to scream though. And supports. But for me, I like my tanks to be silent.
So you don't want tanks to be silent? Like Hadi, I know is a big calmer. But he is very calm and he's very decisive about what he calls. And that's the key thing. Is that there's nothing lost in communication because there's no etc. There's no trash. There's no garbage. There's no distortion in the note. It's clear. You know when he's going in. You know how to synchronize your pressure. You know exactly what he needs. There's no noise, right? The reason why I could see him liking DPS and supports being a little louder is because, hey Scrooge, appreciate it. You're still going. Wow. Is because that pause is perfect. Thanks for the sub. As DPS and supports are more likely to be under pressure that demands instantaneous attention because they're squishier. But outside of that, we'll keep listening.
If they're panicking in front, then it puts a lot of stress on me as well. That's the reality. Nice. Beaver can be calm. Everybody can be calm, dude. But as a support, if you're playing tank, honestly, a quick tip to get more heals and not stress your teammates, nice, is just talk more calmly. For supports, I like them being Pepega. Or control, whatever, don't care that much. Yeah.
May. We can spawn trap someone. There's a buff there.
Take your medicine. Sounds like white noise.
DPSs, I want my DPSs.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's actually I haven't given it a ton of thought, but yeah, that seems reasonable to me. Seems reasonable. There's like logic behind that. Okay. Holy cow. We might have to pause halfway. Here's the thing. Most people in comp need to talk more and talk less at the same time. Like more important calls, but like less panic. How do you play against Far Echo as Reaper? My line of thing is to not play the space that matters. Hold short signs. Yeah, sure. Yeah, just like, yeah, exactly. Like you need to find short sightlines and find people to shoot. Find people to shoot in your short sightlines. Like it's not good, but there are people with their feet on the ground. There are heroes with your feet on the ground. So those are the people that you look to pressure. How should you go about learning ult tracking? I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna do another Ask Spilo later this week because I've fallen behind, but I am gonna stop right after this question here. How'd you go about learning ult tracking? I mean, I already answered this before, so you need to go back and like look at it. But basically, start small. Don't worry about accuracy. Worry about repetition and speed. You know, even if it's just tanks, but you do tanks in 5 seconds and it's done, right? Even if it's just DPS and supports, it's fine. It's done in 8 seconds and it's done. Don't worry about finding value out of the little ult tracking that you do, than trying to ult track a masterpiece perfectly and scuffing it up every single time. Small steps. Be fast, be concise, and worry about finding value, getting information that you can use about the little bit of ult tracking that you did. They revealed previously that 1% of comp accounts are GM. Yeah, right. How many alt accounts is there? What the actual percent of comp players in those rings are? Oh, that's a good question. I would probably say that there's maybe a slightly higher percentage of, or actually a slightly lower percentage of GM and Masters players and Diamond players. In other words, 1% GM, maybe it's like 0.9 or 0.8% because Masters and GM players are more likely to have alt accounts. So multiple accounts in GM because there's my, you know, I mean, they just play the game more. So they're higher ranked, so they're higher, so they play the game more, so they're more likely to have more accounts. And I think that the case is with, you know, the Masters and Diamonds. You could probably say maybe there's 9% of players are actually Diamonds. So really, if you're GM, you're not only in the top 1%, I'd say you're probably in like the top 0.8%, 0.9%, something like that. Like you, I mean, look at Yezna and Kevster. Those guys got like 7 different accounts, you know. And obviously that's an exaggeration, but most players do have multiple accounts. If you play the game seriously enough to get GM, you probably have multiple accounts. So close to your question. Which one is yours? Oh, there you go. Perfect timing. Yeah, basically Mentos record. Yeah, so I feel, yeah, I feel bad, but I do need to stop. Like I am